Welcome back. All right, in my continuing look at teams that have missed the playoffs this season, we're at Chicago. So San Jose yesterday, Chicago today, which means tomorrow is Nashville. So for Chicago, and I've got the last 4 years on the board for them as well. I'm not going to be doing that for everybody. Each board's going to be different. The 2021-2022 season, the first of those 4 years, was actually Chicago's best at 28, 42, and 12 for 68 points. The following season, a record of 26, 49, and 7 for 59 points. And then they kind of hit bottom last season, record of 23, 53, and 6 for 52 points. This year, we saw an improvement of 9 points. They finished 25, 46, and 11 for 61 points. So Chicago's trending in the right direction, and with the cap space they have, the expectations are they're going to be aggressive this summer. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was Connor Bedard, because that is what everything in Chicago revolves around in terms of their hopes for the future and everything. I think Bedard had a season that, was it great? No. Was it as bad as people make it sound? Also no. So his rookie season, he played 68 games, had 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points. He played 19 minutes and 47 seconds per game. This season, 82 games played, so 14 more games, just one more goal at 23, 5 more assists to get to 44. 6 overall points in terms of an improvement to 67 points. He played 20 minutes and 17 seconds per game. But he also took 11 fewer shots. So one thing that we did hear about his game this year was he needs to shoot more. That's 11 fewer shots even though he played 14 more games. I think with Bedard at certain points this year there was a crisis of confidence. I think that this was a sophomore slump for him, which players have sophomore slumps. It happens, and I would expect Bedard's numbers to get better next year. I do not see somebody who's 19 years of age as a bust. It's just not a thing. To be a bust, in my opinion, you have to be in that range of 22, 23, and then you kind of know what you've got with that player. And even then, that player can turn it around. Nathan McKinnon comes to mind there. Frank Nazar really took some steps this year. Last year, he only played 3 games and 1 goal. But this year, 53 games, 12 goals, 14 assists, 26 points. And he got better as the season went along. I'm a huge fan of his game. Named him as my favorite Chicago Blackhawk that I watched this year. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do next season. Now, Vlasic has really taken that next step as a defenseman. It will be pointed out that I don't have Crevier on the board. I don't know if Crevier has as much upside as a lot of the other defensemen, especially with Vlasic. So he came into the league in 2021-2022, only played 15 games, had a goal and an assist. 2022-2023, played 6 games, had 1 assist. Or he had 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points that first year. Then he had 1 assist in 6 games the following season. And then 2023-2024, 76 games, 2 goals, 14 assists, 16 points. Gets a healthy contract extension, which was a head-scratcher to some who had not watched Vlasic play. But this season, 82 games, 4 goals, 26 assists, 30 points. I will not be surprised if Vlasic ends up trending into the 40 to 45 point range next year. Not that points are a big part of his game. He's a big player. He's a very smart player. And he is one of those guys that the more you see him play, the more impressed you will be by his game. Lev Shinov, his plus-minus numbers, not great, but he had 6 assists in 18 games and a call-up this year. And the expectation is Lev Shinov's going to be a big part of that blue line moving forward. And this, again, is part of the reason why Crevier is not on the board. So we have Vlasic, we have Lev Shinov, and then right underneath that, Del Mastro. 2023-2024, plays 2 games. Did not record a point there, so not sure why I put a 2 at the end, other than optimism, right? And then this season, 24 games, 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points. So Del Mastro looking like he'll probably play a lot more games next season. And then Rinzel signs 9 games, 5 assists after signing out of college. And then Oliver Moore, 9 games, 4 assists after signing with the team. Moore's going to be expected to show some offense next season. I don't know if you start him on the third line or if he plays top 6. But either way, Moore looked good. The 4 assists not really telling the whole story there. And then there's Korchinski, and I'm a Korchinski fan on some level. 76 games in 2023-2024, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. That being said, they made the right decision in putting him back in the minors. Now this year, he only played 16 games because he played in Rockford most of the season. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. We'll talk about his play in Rockford over here. But the points don't tell you. I think Korchinski looked good in the call-up. I think he just played less. I don't have the ice time, but it did not feel like Korchinski was being leaned on as much this season after the call-up as he was the season before. So for Chicago, this is really the thing to track, is all these young players. And there's still going to be some young players coming up, and we'll see how everything turns out for them. So this summer, currently, they are showing on Puckpedia as having $30.97 million in cap space. There's always the chance, too, that if Kyle Davidson feels like they need more space, maybe he moves out a contract or two, right? Now, they're pending UFAs. Ryan Donato, I would think that it is in the best interest of both Donato and the Hawks to find an extension and get that signed. I don't expect Donato to be a 30-goal scorer again next year. It is a career year, but still the guy deserves to get paid for that career year. And clearly there's something that works for him in Chicago that didn't work elsewhere. Athanasiou, it did not work in Chicago, so Athanasiou I would expect goes to market. The retirements as well, we know that Maroon and Martinez have retired. Basically, with the young kids coming up and the amount of just development that we've seen from this team over the last 12 months, Maroon and Martinez, as great players as they've been throughout their careers, this is a team that I think will be better next year, even though they lose those two veterans to retirement. Now, they have extra draft picks. They have 2 first-round picks for this year's draft. They have 2 seconds and 2 fourths. Next year, they have 2 firsts and 3 second-round draft picks. And then in 2027, they have 2 second-round draft picks. So there's some extra draft capital to work with there. And it'll be interesting to see with Chicago at what point those draft picks they've been piling up, they start to move out in order to make their team better. And they realize, hey, this is the time. At some point in time, you have a lot of really good young prospects and you got to go for it. And you're not looking to collect more draft picks and prospects. Not too far off of like Buffalo deciding this year, yeah, we need to just get better. So Chicago's not far off of that, right? Now, interim head coach Anders Sorensen, there's a lot of talk about who the next coach is going to be. I thought Sorensen did fine. I did. I thought he did fine behind the bench for the Chicago Blackhawks. I am a big supporter of the idea of European born coaches being head coaches in the National Hockey League. I've always found it odd that the NHL employs so many players who were born in Europe, but for coaches, whoa, hey, we don't want a European coach. Why not? I mean, if they can go out and play the game, they can coach the game, at least I think so. But anyways, we'll see what they do with the head coaching position and who they bring in. There's a lot of rumors about whether or not they might be bringing in an NCAA coach or what they're going to do here, but Chicago definitely in the hunt for a new coach. Donato, I wanted to talk about his stats just for a moment here. 80 games, 31 goals, 31 assists, 62 points. That should be discussed because I don't think he hits those numbers again. And Mikheyev, what a bounce back year for Mikheyev. 80 games, 20 goals, 14 assists, 34 points. No, Mikheyev wouldn't have scored 20 goals if he played on some of the other teams he played on before or other teams around the league, but still 20 goals is 20 goals, and good for Mikheyev having a bit of a bounce back season. Goaltending is going to be interesting to see what tactic they take this summer. Soderblom, 10, 18, and 7, 898 save percentage. Had a good year, but Spencer Knight's going to be the guy, and I think you're probably going to want a veteran in there with Knight, so similar to what Mrazek was for this team. Knight went 5, 8, and 2 after being acquired from Florida with an 896 save percentage. So Spencer Knight's going to be the guy. Do you keep Soderblom? What happens with Comesso? Comesso 0-1 in a very, brief call-up. An 846 save percentage, but we'll talk about him again over here. Is Comesso going to be the backup for Knight? Do you go in another direction? It'll be interesting to see what they do this summer. So looking at the numbers for this team, and they're not pretty. We know they're not going to be pretty. 2.73 goals for per game is 26th in the NHL, which is actually maybe a little better than some might have expected, but the defense is as bad as expected. 3.56 goals against per game, that's 31st in the National Hockey League. And when you have a lot of young players, it's going to happen. A lot of young players means you're going to get owned in the face-off circle in all likelihood, and your defense is probably going to struggle, right? And then the power play, they were good this year. 24.9%, that's 7th. And their penalty kill, not bad, right around the middle of the league at 14th, 79.3%. So the problem is 5-on-5 hockey. They took 24.5 shots per game and allowed 31.1 shots against per game. So since their special teams have been good, that tells you 5-on-5, this team had its struggles. And it is going to be upon Kyle Davidson to bring in the right players and figure out the right mix to turn that 5-on-5 game around, since they are good on the power play and they're decent on the penalty kill as well. Now, Rockford, the AHL team, finished 31-33, 6-2. That's fifth in the Central. Playoff team, yes. Colton Dock for Rockford, 33 games, 12 goals, 14 assists, 26 points. I don't even have Dock on this side of the board, and yet his numbers were good at the AHL level. He did not look out of place with Chicago when they called him up this year either. And then there's Korchinski, 56 games, 3 goals, 24 assists, 27 points. Seemed to build up his confidence, and I thought he looked better, as I said previously, in his call-up than he did last year. And then Drew Comesso, if he's going to be the next guy, in net, 18, 15, and 4 record, 911 save percentage. Good numbers at the AHL level, 846 at the NHL level, but very, very small sample size. And it is likely that soon Chicago's going to want to give him more of a real look in the net. So the question I have to Chicago fans is simple. If the rumors end up coming through and they're actually aggressive in the offseason about adding players, do we see a lot of these young players who are still in Rockford, or maybe the guys who were in Rockford got called up, do we see them back in Rockford next season because Kyle Davidson's going to bring in veterans that will mean there's not enough room for a lot of these young players? Or are they going to continue to go through the growing pains with the young players and maybe add 1 or 2 free agents, right? I would think they definitely need to add at least 1 on the blue line, 1 top 4 blue liner if there's one available on free agency. And I do wonder with the goaltending if they go out and they look for a 1B option, an experienced 1B option to spell night when needed. So they're going to be a fun team to watch next season. They were fun to watch the second half of this season. Even though the wins weren't there, I really enjoyed watching Chicago and just how casual they seem to be down the stretch. And even in losses, they looked like they were having some fun, even though Bedard, for the most part, did not. And that is something that they're going to want to work on, because when Bedard looks like he's having fun on the ice, as he did through a lot of his rookie season, he tends to be pretty productive. So we'll see how things go. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Keep in mind as well that these are just general overlook kind of videos. It's not meant to go into a lot of detail. It's not a season preview for next year, obviously, because we haven't even got through the draft. We haven't got through free agency. It's just to look at where the team's at right now and kind of, spitballing. So what are things going to look like for next year? So no, not everybody goes on the board. Not all the prospects end up on the board, and each board will be different. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support, as always. I will talk to you again soon.